Hello, guys, and welcome back to our live stream, or should we call it webinar? Today is Thursday. It's supposed to be webinar day, but we decided to go live and tackle a technical soft skill so that we can be an all-rounded professional. I feel like from January up to February, we've just been talking about nutrition. So to break the monotony, we decided to settle on this particular topic, how to do a presentation like a pro, because when you're going to a webinar, when you're doing a research work and you want to present, when you're a teacher, when you're a tutor, you have to have slides. If you're a good orator, you can talk your way through, it's okay. But if you're here and you want to know how to do a presentation like a pro, please stay tuned. My name is Charity Wanyonyi. I'm a certified nutritionist, and I'm one of the co-founders at the Nutritionist Corner platform. So my co-founder has joined me, and I will let her introduce herself. Lilian, you can unmute and introduce yourself. Thank you.
Hi, thank you, Charity. Hi, everyone. So my name is Lilian Mumina. I'm a nutritionist, registered and licensed, practicing in Kenya, and I'm also one of the co-founders of the Nutritionist Corner. And I'm definitely happy that we are finally doing it, Charity. We were talking about doing a live for the longest time. I think since the year started, it's our first live. Is it our first or our second?
It's a I don't know, first live this year.
Yeah.
Like,
So yeah, I'm finally glad that you're doing it. So, and we also take a break from the norms. And today being a Thursday, we usually have webinars. So that means tonight we're not going to have any webinar. So if you come across this, kindly share with your friends who attend our webinars. We're also going to do the same so that we can start the discussion. Karibuni sana.
thank you so much, Lilian. So we are live here on LinkedIn. We're also live on our YouTube channel. If you feel comfortable watching us on the YouTube, please head over there and watch this live stream. The videos will be saved on our page, The Nutritionist Corner, and also on our YouTube channel, The Nutritionist Corner. So today we're going to really tackle this. And I'm just going to give you an overview of how the session is going to be. So we're going to look at reframing presentation as a professional skill. Like I said, we're going to look at both technical and soft skill. We're going to look at common mistakes professionals make. We're going to look at structuring a presentation for maximum impact, because if you're doing a presentation, of course, you want it to have an impact to your audience or anyone who is listening to you. We're also going to look at slide designs and visual communication, because communication is a special skill that most of us or all of us need to have. We're also going to look at building confidence and managing nerves, and I'm glad we have Lilian here atatuonyesha how to minimize those nerves when you're presenting, sauti ikishake, the whales ikikuja, the sauti ikienda. I'm glad she's here. She'll be able to take us through how to just build confidence and manage your nerves when you're presenting, showing up prepared, being credible, and last of all, just being a professional. And then we're going to have a session for the Q&A like we normally do on our Thursday webinar session. So we really pangad na tukatengeneza this live. So please keep sharing, tell people who will usually tune in. The comment section on LinkedIn, the comment section on YouTube are open. Please leave your comments. Let's interact like we usually do on our normal Thursday session. And I will hand it over to Lilian to just do a brief introduction as you wait for people to join in. Lilian?
So the main reason that we decided to do this topic is not because healthcare workers do not know how to do presentation, but of course there's a gap. Healthcare workers, healthcare professionals, nutritionists included, we are taught about the technical. So much is emphasized on understanding our craft, knowing the nitty-gritties of the body, the anatomy, the physiology, the biochemicals, and the interactions with the various nutrients and such, and things like presentation, communication, and how to actually now communicate your needs, communicate your wants, or even to talk to people are actually set aside as a by the way, which is quite unfortunate, because when we don't learn those things, we will not be able to actually now prompt behavior change, which we have actually seen to be a problem. And now, of course, with the revolution of scientific education, scientific conferences, we are also seeing a lot of healthcare professionals, including nutritionists, actually now needing to learn on how to present, and also the other aspects of life that you need to learn how to present. It's not just about the technical aspects of nutrition. You might go somewhere, you're representing the profession, or you're the only nutritionist who is in that platform, and you're given an opportunity to talk. And sometimes most of us get shaky or we freeze when you're told that. So learning how to present is not just about the webinars, not just about the technical input. It's about making sure that you learn how to put your message across effectively. And personally, I have received a lot of questions, a lot of concerns from professionals on people, someone telling me that I don't know how to be confident, I don't know how to talk, I don't know how to do a webinar. I want to do a webinar, I want to come in as your speaker, but I'm still shy. So I think that is one of the things that you're going to handle, Charity, if I'm not wrong. So this basically is a discussion that is meant to empower you as an individual, to make sure that you understand the basics. It's not hard, by the way. Communicating is not so hard. Presentations are not hard. But again, we are going to walk you through. The guidelines that Charity shared are very good. So we're definitely going to walk you through. So if you have been struggling with delivering effective presentation, or you feel like you need to improve, because sometimes people think they are good, but realistically, when you do a presentation, maybe your retention rate is a bit low, maybe your engagement is a bit low, maybe your comments and feedback is a bit low, maybe how people actually respond to what you're actually communicating is not as you expect. I'm not saying that is something that you should actually have it at the back of your head, but it should actually show you that there's room for improvement. The good thing about being a human is that you can always learn. And that's why we are here. So karibuni sana. I hope I've introduced the topic and the need. Charity?
Yes, Lilian, you have. So we are at 7 or 9, almost 7:10. That is when we officially start the webinar, even on our Thursday live. So we're going to, like Lilian has introduced, touched on what the first segment is about, and we're going to look at reframing presentation as a professional skill or professional competency. And Lilian, like I shared with you, the guide, I don't feel like we need to really read question by question. I feel like we can just discuss it as why is it important, or why is it seen as a professional skill? Because I've attended most webinars, and also when I was still working, we used to have guests from pharmaceutical companies coming to do presentation. So for me, I could see the slide making as part of it. We're going to look at it later. So I saw like maybe one person or two ndio unaona like they're presenting and they're good at it. So maybe someone will ask, why is this skill like important? Maybe you can take us through that as we continue with the discussion.
Why presentation skills is important. And I like the fact that you have given a very good example of pharmaceutical companies, because when they come, they're trying to sell you an idea, they're trying to make you loyal to their brand, they're trying to make you insist or actually now prescribe their products instead of their competitors and such. Now, why is presentation important in healthcare? When you're doing a presentation, let's say you're a med rep, or you are, because I've been a med rep, or you're representing anything, you want to talk about a certain product or a certain service that you want to offer. You're even doing a presentation because you want to look for funds. You want to make sure that you get something from your audience. You're either creating impact or getting something when you're doing a presentation. Of course, it is your line, or it is your way of communicating. So presentation is very important, because when you're preparing for a presentation, you have to think, now I'm diverting, but you have to think about who you're going to talk to. How are they going to take you in? And when you're presenting, you're basically now presenting, you're basically selling an idea or a service or a product to the audience. So you have to make sure that you understand whatever you're doing, make sure that you package it well, make sure that you sell it in a way that it is the first line of selling. In short, presentation. Now, when you were in training, you used to be told you're going to be addressed how you're dressed. So before you start the presentation, of course, but we're going to talk about those ones. Charity?
Yes, Lilian, you really touched on a key issue, and I feel like for most of your presentations that I've attended, you usually encourage us to have a good communication and take communication as an important skill. Hata si lazima ikuwe like in your nutrition because you're a nutritionist, but just a basic human. It's good to have those communication skills, and I feel like for me, presentation do that. Like they showcase how, can I say, communicative you are, because if you're presenting continuous medical education called upon, and I highly encourage nutritionists to have tuned in. If you're in a healthcare team, please make sure you attend those CMEs and also volunteer to be a speaker. That's why the corner is here. You can start practicing by doing a virtual one, and then now you can transition to a physical presentation. I feel like it builds the confidence that we're going to talk about. So for me, basically why I feel like presentation is an important skill is because it helps you sharpen your communication skills. And these days where we are heading, like Lilian, I feel like maybe I digress a little, but with the controversies that are going on surrounding people making comments about nutrition, people not being nutritionists and talking. So you need to have good communication skills so that you can debunk most of this. When I attend someone's webinar, I want to leave the webinar with something. That's why you need to have a structured way you're presenting, because you're taking people through a journey. That's what I usually say when I'm doing most of my presentation. I'm going to introduce you to the topic, tell you what the topic is about. I'm going to give you details, and we're going to walk through the journey until I finish with reflection or call to action. So I feel like for me, I feel it's important because it has helped me sharpen my communication skills. So Lilian, I don't know if there's anything else I've forgotten to add on why presentation is an important skill to have.
No, I don't think you have forgotten to add anything, but it's very important. It's, as you have said, it's your first line of communication. So we need to definitely make sure that we do it right.
So
I
guys,
don't think
you
you've
can
forgotten
try.
anything. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I've been encouraging people to log in as our speakers. Like we have our emails, we have our numbers. If you want to be a speaker, you can just start. And when you do it the first time, you do it the second time, you do it the third time, it starts to get better, and you'll just find yourself being able to properly communicate. So if you have any question regarding why this session is important, you can leave it in the comments and we'll be able to respond to it. So Leon, I'm going to go to the second segment, which is common mistakes professional make. So we're going to look at some of the common mistakes maybe I have made during my presentation na umeshindwa kuniambia ama umeattend presentation ya mtu and then you're like, so we would love to know what are some of the mistakes maybe someone is making knowingly or unknowingly. Lilian, thank you.
Allow me to start by myself. Because like right now, you see, I'm kind of distracted, but nimeweka simu chini sasa because I am trying to do some other arguments that might not be helping so much. Now, the first mistake that we make when you're doing a presentation is failure to prepare. You know, if you're given a topic, let's say you've given a topic to talk about leadership in practice, or understanding the role of engaging stakeholders in developing or implementing certain policies, or trying to coming up with a problem or something like that. And because you've been given objectives, you focus on the objectives. It's good to focus. It's very important to focus on the objectives that you have been given. That's why we at the corner actually give you objectives of the topic that you want to talk about. I have been invited as a speaker in several places and organizations, and they don't give me a write-up of what they expect of me. They just give me the topic and the date, and that's it. And I think that actually can lead the speaker, or can misguide the speaker to not prepare well. So I think one of the things that we do is you might actually now not prepare well. By not preparing well, you might not understand your audience. That's the most important thing, understanding your audience. And let me tell you why. Because you can have all the technical input, you can have all the knowledge, but if you're not able to cut across your audience to actually make sure that you grab their attention, then your presentation will have no impact. They will not listen, they will not stay, and they will leave. And they will definitely not engage, of course, if they have left. So you will fail to understand your audience. And this actually aspect where, like, now let's say my first public presentation after campus was on autism. And I was talking to mothers. And when I was talking to mothers, caregivers, and basically the autistic children and the teachers who are actually dealing with the autistic children. And because I'm a professional, I was called by a doctor who's a friend of mine. Because I'm a professional, I went in and I wanted to show people so much that I understand nutrition. But you see, at the end of it all, I had to stop the presentation and just discuss what I had known, because what I gathered from the presentation that I was making, the slides presentation, because it was a physical one, people were confused because it had a lot of technical jargons and unnecessary English that was not necessary. Also, it's important to note that the presentation I was making ilikuwa interior Kiambu County. So of course, we need to understand your audience. When you fail to understand your audience and whatever they actually need and their problems, whatever you're trying to actually solve with your presentation, then your presentation fails before even you start. And now you have understood the audience. You know what your audience wants, you know what their problems are, you know what they are interested in, or why they have joined, or you have an idea. You don't have to know it all, because no one is perfect that they know everything. Now you understand that, then now you understand your topic. You come in and now try and get as much as you can relevant cases. Make sure that you localize your presentation. I know data is beautiful, and when you are presenting, unless you're doing a presentation in a scientific conference or in a professional forum, or in a specific context of where data is needed, then you might not need to have that data. But of course, if you are talking about policy, if you are talking about change, if you're talking about addressing certain conditions, if you're talking about meeting or mitigating impacts, or coming up or with problems or solutions to actually bridge gaps, of course, you have to get in the statistics and the nitty-gritties. But again, this all is dependent on your audience. So, of course, you understand your topic and you understand the objectives, why you're there as a presenter. What do you actually want to achieve? What do you hope to achieve as a person? And then what you actually wish that your audience achieve. That's what I usually do, by the way. When I'm going to a presentation, I usually have two things. I will outline what I will be talking about, what I want to achieve, what I actually want to make sure that I achieve for that 1 hour, those 45 minutes. Then I will look into what I want the audience to carry from my presentation. And then this will actually now influence how I'm going to deliver my presentation and the talking points, and of course, the discussion centers and such. Of course, if I have those two clearly, then that actually helps a lot. I think you should try it. It actually works. And then, of course, another mistake that we make is distractions. As I've told you, I was on my phone. I was trying to get some other things that I should not be actually trying to understand currently, because for the next like 1 hour we are here, so I should solely focus on what you're doing. So that distraction, me, I'm very specific on thought. I think, I don't know if there's such a thing, but if I distract my thought process, kurudi inakuanga ngumu. So if I'm distracted, or if my slides are not well prepared, they're not well structured according to my thought process, then it makes it impossible. And another mistake that we make, this one, most people are not going to agree that it's a mistake, is allowing someone to prepare the presentation for you. I know you have been given objectives, or or even if you give someone to prepare the presentation for you, you fail to go through it. When you delegate someone, let's say you're a senior official and you're going to a meeting, or you're going to represent the country, the county, or even your organization, and of course you have juniors or you have subordinates who can actually prepare very good presentations for you, and then you fail to go through the presentation before you start the presentation. Of course, when you're doing the presentation, you might get shocks, and if you're doing a physical presentation, the shocks might be visible to your audience, and that is bad. So of course we need to prepare the slides well. Prepare the slides well. If you're like me, I prefer doing the slides myself so that I can actually understand what is actually in the slides, what's the content, how do I flow. So I prefer doing that. But if someone, of course, if you're not in a position to prepare the slides, then you can definitely have someone prepare for you. Then a day before, please try as much as you can to go through the slides and understand them before you get to the stage. That actually helps you have a flowing discussion with your audience. And then, of course, another thing that we do, of course, is actually now, I don't know if it's a problem, but I think it's a problem. If you don't, it might not be a problem, because sometimes you might not be able to control it. But of course, it's language. You need to come up with a language that your audience will understand. But sometimes professionalism dictates we use two major languages, that is English or Swahili. But again, if you can do presentation in your local dialect. The other day I was watching one of our governors do a speech. She was giving her speech, and she was translating the speech directly to her local dialect. Anaongea English, anaongea Swahili, then she translates to the local dialect. I think that's a good thing, because now it actually captures a wider range of audience. So maybe not but again, all this comes from understanding your audience. I don't know if I've left anything else, Charity.
And I was waiting so that I can also have my time to talk about. This is something I was curious about when we were coming up with this. So I'm going to add, pardon me. So I came across this theory when I was coming up with the material so that we can talk about. It's called cognitive load theory. So what really indulged me, I read too much. It's the working memory and the long-term memory. So Lilian has talked about knowing your audience. And for me, I'll add to her point is reading the room. So what do I mean by reading the room? Please, guys, yenye iko kwa screen is just to show you, but ideally a slide is not supposed to look like this. So for me, I'll talk about overloading your slides, which tempts you to read word for word. For me, I'm stressed. It's after a long day. I tune in and then I see such a slide. I'll be tempted to read so that I can move and do something else. So if you're coming up with the presentation, as Lilian said, or someone is helping you come up with the presentation, I would love for you guys to read more on cognitive load theory so that you can be able to understand the difference between a working memory. This is usually the short-term memory, like saizi vile una tune in and you see this, your short-term memory will just grasp maybe the working memory, but the long-term memory zone vitu zinabaki now, it has to be in repetition mode. So when people are tuning into your presentation, most of the time, inawaingilia sana, we are using our working memories. So I do not want to log in and see an over anyway, sitaingilia watu ni sawa. We learn as we grow, like a slide that has so many words. So I'm reading, I'm not even listening to you. Like Lilian say, I'm distracted because I'm reading, so I will not even know your train of thoughts. And then after I finish reading, what will I do? Like Lilian is doing, I will look at my phone and wait for you to finish reading word for word, and then I will move. So by the time you finish, like Lilian said, your retention, watu wanatoka, or people stop listening to you, and then at the end of it all, people don't have a call to action or the key takeaways from your presentation. So another thing I will add, I've marked the overusing your slides or sometimes Word. For me, guys, I get the ick when I log in and someone has projected a document. It really, because you need to prepare. If I'm calling on Lilian to come and make a presentation, I will call on her a week or 2 weeks to the time I want her to come. That's where professionalism comes in, the way we've talked about in the first segment. I will appreciate if she will be professional and actually do research, read more, prepare more, so that you will not be tempted to read. I know sometimes you might not have time, so utajipata like you're reading word for word, which is okay, but sometimes doing that, and this I got from my own presentation. I was presenting my findings during my master's level. Tulikuwa tunaingilia wenye tulikuwa tunasoma word for word because they were telling us we can read, so there's no need for you to read for us. We have eyes, we can read. And then one tip I will share with you, which I don't know if it's a common mistake or not. For me, I usually see it as a mistake, is you do not tell us your key takeaways or summarize. Sometimes I might log in your presentation or come in when you're halfway. So I really appreciate at the end, and I don't know if most of you do, because I know most of my presentation, and I know Lilian does that too. We usually have key takeaways, reflection, call to action, so that someone who has not been following through or lamingia late is able to catch up on what you have talked about. So that's what I just wanted us to jot and think about when you're coming up with a presentation. Know the difference between a working memory, long-term memory, and the retention and constitution span, so that you don't make your presentation long. You end up losing people along the way. So Lilian, I think Neo too. I don't know if I've left out anything else. I return our poster back. Thank you. Lilian?
No, that is okay. That is okay. And the overloading of the slides, by the way, hata pia mimi nilikuwa wale watu wenye, if you start reading to me, I will tell you, please share with me the slides. I will read by myself. So I think that's also a good thing. So it's a good reminder, because sometimes watu wanaweza kuwa tempted to actually have their slides overloaded wakifikiria it's a good thing. And again, the crowding is also bad for your site, you know. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing that you have emphasized that.
Yeah, I needed to, because to be honest, guys, it icks me when I see an overloaded slide, because I feel like you're stressing us and you're stressing yourself, because you'll be tempted to read. Because if you have, let's say, like, sisi tunaambiwanga minimum of 5 bullet points. So 5 bullet points are not documents. So it's 5 bullet points, so that you will explain to us, so that we listen to you, not read what is on your slide. So I feel like that was good. So then we're going to go to the third segment, which is structure and framework. So we're going to look at how to structure a presentation. I know this maybe is the most important part, and I don't know if I'm able to record. Okay, I hope it does record, so that we can have a sneak peek of this as a reel, so that we can be able to share in case someone did not tune in, but bado itakuwa. So we're going to look at structuring a presentation for maximum impact. So just take us through your thought process when you're structuring your slides from start to finish, Lilian.
Okay, so for that, I will have to tell you what I do as Lilian, because I cannot start sharing a structure and maybe you have come across my presentations. So that will not sit really well. So I divide my presentation. This I was told by a certain professional. They told me that you divide your profession in 3 major segments to make it a bit easier to understand. You have the introduction and what is going to captivate, like where you're talking about problems, you're talking about maybe why this topic, you're talking about relevance, you're talking about that, and then you get into the nitty-gritties, and then as you end, you have the conclusion. But that is just a basic, that is a basic one. So what I usually do, of course, I have the introduction. That is my basic structure. And of course, the topic and the slide, you need to make it not beautifying, but you need to make it a bit interesting so that people can actually see the relevance. And then, as I said, when you understand your audience, you also need to make sure that you marry the slides and the subheading, the topic and the subheading with whatever you're going to discuss. I hope I'm on the right track, Charity, because...
Yes, you are. You're taking us through your thought process and we appreciate it.
Yes, and then I come in with the introduction. But before I get into the introduction, you have to share the objectives. You have to let people understand what they are in for. And I think you can exaggerate kidogo on why hapo kwa objectives, or when you're doing your introduction, you can do some small exaggerations. You can throw in some serious fact about what you're doing so that you capture the attention. But again, also try and make sure that you also sell the idea that that is going to, the solution that your presentation is actually going to deliver in your introduction. I know it's one slide, so you have to make sure that, again, you introduce the problem, you justify, and then you bring in a fact that captures attention. And after that, the fact that captures attention, you bring in why or how your presentation or whatever you're going to talk about can bring about a solution to capture attention. And then you go into phase 1 of your presentation. Now, phase 1 of your presentation, assuming your presentation is about 20 slides, or even, again, presentation should not be too long. You can have a live discussion that is too long. Presentation are not supposed to be too long. But again, of course, we know for the technical things like managing conditions, sometimes they have to be too long. There's nothing that you can do about the length. They just have to be too long. But it depends, again, from the audience that you're doing. Let's say you're talking about, or you're doing a policy brief, or you're doing... not a policy brief. Let's talk about something that people do commonly. You're doing something like you're talking to an audience, like you're doing a conference, or you're talking about how to be a good communicator in your workplace, or you're talking about how to organize, to improve your organization skills. Vitu kaa hizo vitu zenye watu wanafanyanga basic, and your audience does not, or it's a CME, your audience does not have 2 hours or 3 hours, they're only there 45 to 1 hour. Of course, you have to make sure that you don't have it too long. So a third of your presentation should be about the intro, the problems, justification, and the need of that discussion. Of course, now this is where now you come in and you contextualize your data, you give an image. I always have, if you check on my presentation, hata kama sitakuwa na images in like the last set, in the first set, I will have some images to try and emphasize the picture. I will have some graphs so that people can actually now get clarity of what I want to talk about. Then the second part, then I go into the second bit, and then now I go into deep. If it's technical, then I'll go deep technicality. If it's gaps, if it's that, then I'll get into the deep roots. And then, of course, as I conclude, I give my recommendation. But before I get to my recommendation, I try and now if it's something that maybe you're doing a research, now you try and see, or try and marry what has been done over time and what has been working, what has not, and what we can do better. Then you come in with your recommendation and then you conclude. Yeah, that's it. That's the structure of my presentation. I hope you have seen it in my presentation, Charity.
Yes, I see it. Like the way you describe that is how you take us through a journey in each at the corner, anywhere you're called to present. That is what you do. And sometimes I borrow from how you do your slides, because for me, I always have an overload of information. So sometimes I find I have like almost 40 slides and it's a 30 minutes presentation or a 1 hour. Sometimes it forces you to petition some slides and just trying to rush through your presentation, which sometimes is not good. I feel like for me, I also do the same when I'm coming up with a presentation, and I feel like I am always refining my presentations and my slides, because perfectionism itatua wengine wetu. Anyway, so for me, I always start like Lilian. I've received a topic, let's say a mentorship topic, you're talking to students. So I take myself back to being a student and what I would have loved to know. So I come up with a topic and see why that topic will sit well with, of course, the younger me. I usually use the younger me when I'm coming up with mentorship topics. So when I've settled on the topics, I will look at why the topic matters or why is it important, or I will discuss with the person who has called me for that talk why the topic matters, and then I will set the context and then now dive in. If it's a technical, of course, objectives have to be there and all that. If it's just a talk, I will try and group into semi-themes. I don't know if Lilian, you've noticed that I group them in semi-themes. If it's self-belief, that will be the first, let's say 10 to 15 minutes. And then I go to confidence, sub-themes until I get to the end, where I have the reflection, call to action, what I would love for guys to do. If there's a question for them to answer, if there's a chat, I will leave them at the end so that we can continue interacting as we get into the Q&A. So Lilian, I think that is my thought process when I'm coming up with a presentation. And I feel like if you've tuned into my work, that is what I apply, and I feel like it works for me, because if I'm structured, I will not be tempted to read. I will not be tempted to overload my slide, because I will know the area and the audience I am talking to. Yeah. So I don't know if Lilian, there's something else you love
Yeah,
for our
maybe I can
audience.
add on
Yeah.
another thing that I do, when I feel like, sometimes you might come across a statement and you might really want to emphasize it on a certain slide. What I usually do is I make sure that on my notes section in that slide, I really scribble. I really try and scribble. And when I'm presenting with my phone, of course, most people will not see that. But when I'm using my laptop, you will see like most of my slides have a cut notes, that text box, because I usually now try and make sure that I want, like when I'm preparing a slide and I think about something and I'm thinking this slide is going to be so heavy if I add this, then I will write on my notes, and so that I can not lose that thought process. So just because you say that your slide is not supposed to be so wordy, it does not mean that you can use other things in Word to actually make sure that you capture whatever you want to do. Just don't be so obvious, like kazi tu ni kusoma. People really like interactions, and when they notice that what you do is read, what you do is just come in and unatusomea word by word, then it becomes a problem. I have seen that a lot, and I'm sure Charity, you have seen that as well, because watu hufanya hivyo so much. So let's try and avoid reading. It's a presentation, it's supposed to be a discussion, unless it's a scientific conference where now you have to, or you're defending your thesis, then you really have to read your slides.
But still, hata kwa people present, they do not want to be reading word for word. Anyways, we'll talk about that. Because for me also, I also feel like when you structure your slides, I feel like it just depends with the audience. Like Lilian said, your audience will guide how you're going to. Of course, when you're in an informal setting, you're talking to a group. Let's say you're training people on or CHVs, you're training them, promoters. I feel like there's a way you're going to curate your slides to match them, and then there's a way you're sitting in a room full of nutritionists and all that. There's a way you're going to frame your slides. So I don't feel like there's really a like structure, like Lilian said, this is what you're supposed to do. But if you have a skeleton or a framework of how you're going to structure your presentation, I feel like it will make your work easier. For me, I usually work with templates, and templates really have helped me. I'm not plugging Canva because they're not paying me, but they have very good slides, templates that I've customized it. When I want to just switch my slides because I know this is how my presentation I usually are, I just copy and paste in that slide template or presentation template, and it helps me. So that takes us to the next segment. That's why I don't want to say too much. We're going to look at slide design and of course visual communication. Lilian has mentioned the use of pictures. For me, I like using questions, polls, to judge like thoughts, sneak peeks like of very factual things that have come across in the area, interacting with people, unaname watu wanajibu swali. So I feel like that is what you're going to look at, because I feel like that really helps amplify your presentation more. Like Lilian said, it's a discussion. So you don't need to read word for word, and you're not really teaching, except if you're in a class, you're a tutor or you're a teacher. But of course, you still have to ask your students questions. But depending on where you are, you need to make your presentation lively and vibrant. Because my working memory wants to grasp the little that it can take. So Lilian, let's talk about slide design and communication. They will go hand in hand, but I feel like we still have time. So let's just look at slide and visual communication, and then we're going to look at building confidence and managing nerves. Na hiyo nitakuachia wewe kwa sababu wengine wetu bado sauti inatetemeka kidogo kwa umbali. So yeah, let's talk about slide design and visual communication, Lilian.
Sauti kutetemeka ni constant, eh? It's constant, by the way. Sauti kutetemeka. So for design, now of course you want something to be captivating, not attractive, unless you're doing something artistic, or you're doing a wellness or a fun day discussion, like easy corporate things, team building and such. Then of course your presentation slides or your slides need to be a bit professional. So of course we need to understand the use of pictures, the use of bar graphs, the use of transitions. I used to use them a lot. I'll go back there. So the use of lines, the use of emojis, as you have said, Charity, because even in professional presentation, monotony still can dominate. So you need to break the monotony of wording. You can also interchange your slides format. You can do like a double slide where you have double content, and then you do another one with a single content. You come in, you put in an image, you come in, you highlight and change colors of the certain text, but do not make it too colorful. Again, when you're doing them, you don't need to overload the pictures, you don't need to overload the videos, you don't need to overload the colors. Be a good minimalist who's attentive to what the venye umesema audience can actually grasp. So of course, when I use Word a lot. I know there's Canva, but I still prefer Word because of the simplicity, and I have used it for so long, so I am very efficient with it. I use Canva for other designs, but not my presentation. But every once in a while, like if I want a colorful presentation, I'll go to Canva. But I do Word. So I usually have a template that I have nikaa nimeitumia ndo inakwanga tu ya what I will do with it. So once in a while I'll change the colors, but I'll use the same template, and then I'll come in, edit with the same fonts. And again, when you're doing your presentation, you need to also check on fonts. They need to match for all the slides. You need to make sure you're also checking on the size, the wording and all that, the alignment. They need to be, if it's a professional discussion, they have to align for all your slides. And then when you're doing the breaks, let's say you're doing the bar graphs, you're doing the pie charts, or you're doing your charts, or you're doing your images, let them be very well placed on your slides. Zisikuwe zimewekwa mahali tu hapa alafu there's a lot of space and a lot of gap on one side. So if you know that you're going to have the image that you have created or you have come up with, or the slides or the bars that you have actually come up with ni ndogo, just try and make sure that the other side kuna kitu ya kuongelelea so that it doesn't look so blank. And again, also understand the length of your lines. Do not have too short, too long, too short, too long. Make sure that at least they are aligning mahali tu zikai ziko out of space, so that the slides look a bit presentable to look at and easy to read and easy to understand. And again, also for it will make presentation easier for you, because it will actually make people interested in your slides visually. So of course we call them the visual aids. That's what I remember us calling them. They're called visual aids. So use them, but do not overload them. Of course, you can have a small image representing what you're talking about in each of your slides. That is okay, but let it not overpower whatever is on your discussions. And things like maybe bar graphs, things like maybe pie charts, things like what are they called, line graphs. They're supposed to be well labeled so that they are not looking like zimewekwa tu, so that if someone now comes in and maybe they can't even hear, or they can read, or they're in a position where they cannot listen and they can still read, they can still follow through your presentation because of how well it's flowing. Charity?
Yes, Lilian, thank you so much for those tips. I hope you guys who are tuned in, you have your pen and your paper and you're jotting down what Lilian has said, because she has given you very helpful tips to help your presentation be professional, especially in professional setting, formal setting. Your slides need to be minimal. We do not want to be seeing emojis, formal, yes, but during a professional setting, people will expect a professional outlook. Informal settings, when talking and you have something to say and you want an image to represent it, please, the tip I'll share with you guys is to find good quality images that really inaonekana, like unaona poster yetu, when you tune in you can be able to see, because I've tried to contrast the image and the words and the colors. So what I want to pop out in capital letters and very big, and what I want minimize ziko hapo, but you're still able to read, because I've contrasted the background, which is white, and the words are black. So when you tune in, that is what you see. So for me, what I usually do, especially because I use Canva a lot, kuna tendency ya go overboard, because there are a lot of templates that are really calling out to you. I try to use minimal ones that have contrasted colors between the background and the words, so that when someone is tuning in to my presentation, you're able to read. And when someone tunes in, I use consistent fonts. So even if you're in the Word, use a consistent font. You can change it, because I know Word still has templates. You can use fonts that are easy to read, but don't read for us word for word, because utatuchokesha. So just follow what Lilian has told you. Visual, written. Kama the image can still explain what you want to tell us, images are okay, because I've seen that people who wanakuanga na image and they really do explain and they have 2 or 3 sentences kwa slides na image and they're able to take the audience through that slide and wanaelewa because they have prepared adequately. So Lilian, I don't think I have anything else to add. You shared all the tips that I had on my end. And also I've added what I feel like we have not. So just remember not to read word for word. I think at the end of every segment, I will keep repeating, because I feel like that is one of the common mistakes most of us make. So we're going to go to segment 5 na hapa Lilian, nimenawa mikono. I'm transferring it to you. And why? Because for me personally, because I've worked with you for a long time, I feel like wewe master hii part. So you're very confident in your presentation. You take people through a journey. Hata mtu hawezi jua uko nervous, so ndio unasema sauti inatetemeka aje. So Lilian will take us through building confidence and also managing the nerves. You can tell us how the nerves look like, especially sauti kuenda, kutetemeka, kupotea sometimes. Unadhani watu wanakusikia and you're panicking. Like you said, a lot of people are asking you questions. How do I build confidence? How can I just master this courage and do a presentation? So take us through hii segment. Nimekuachia wewe, mimi nitakaa hapa pia. I have my pen and paper, I'm going to write down. So Lilian, welcome.
The first thing that you need to write down is that your nervousness ni constant kila mahali. Yeah? That is constant. By the way, I don't think there's any presenter or anyone who will walk and say that they don't have nerves before they do any presentation. Because of course you have expectations. You have expectations of yourself, and you're actually expecting other people to have expectations of you. So of course that can bring anyone nerves, me included. So I think when it comes to confidence, confidence is built on practice. And Charity, you cannot say you're not confident. I cannot agree to that. You cannot. There are people who are not confident.
I think you'll mention one of these points, but for me, before this live, I sat in front of a mirror and practiced. I've written down notes hapa zenye unaona kila saa naangalia so that I don't forget something. So I keep on practicing, but wacha tutaendelea kuongea during our Q&As.
Yeah. So I think the main reason, Charity tu amesema, the main way to actually overcome the fear, the stage fear, or the presentation fear, or the camera fear, is practice. Of course, you have to practice. You have to be okay. There's a phrase that I have been using a lot. You have to be okay with not being so good for you to get so good. You know, if you want to talk about or you want to talk in front of a big audience, if you want to do a presentation in front of big people, what I usually do, I know most people will not think, I usually look for one person. If it's a physical presentation, I will look for one, or like if it's a room, like now I'll get one person on my left, on my right, and in kwa center yangu katikati, and I will focus on those 3 people during my presentation. And if I notice that someone has shifted, I will look for another person. So I will be presenting to those 3 people, and I don't know how I do it, but I can blur the entire room while doing the presentation. And then of course I'll stop. And of course, because of their cues, they are human. Someone will shake their head, someone will move, someone will look in their phones. Then I'll take that opportunity to now take a break and try and see what is happening in the room. That is during the presentation. But what about before the presentation? As Charity has said, you have to practice. Make sure that you take time to understand the topic. Like me, when I'm doing any presentation, I will try and switch my brain fully to it. Even if I was talking about something else like 30 minutes ago, best believe before I do that presentation, before nikuje hapa, nimejiambia tunaongelelea presentation and presentation. So you have to rehearse. You have to try, if you're fearing going in front of people, if you're fearing like going in front of a camera, you have to learn how to practice before you actually go. There's nothing wrong with practicing for you to get good at something. The worst mistake that you can do to yourself is kujifanya when you ule mse, when you're given that mic or when you're given that opportunity, you can't talk. I know, of course, you can even do the practice before and still get the shivers. Sauti inapotea, it happens to everyone, and it's normal. So ikipotea, you can even take a breather. If we thank God for online webinars, if it's an online webinar, you can ask your moderator to give you a minute to take a sip of water, you breathe in and breathe out, and then you come in and do your presentation. If it's a physical presentation, before you go in, it's always good to be seated somewhere where you can easily access the stage so that you don't have to walk, the long walk from where you're seated to the presentation podium or to where if you're going to be in the preliminaries, you're going to be in the discussions. I don't like that long walk. So if I'm doing a presentation, even if I'll have a seat at the back, just before my presentation, you'll see me move to somewhere near where I'll be standing or where I'll be sitting, so that I avoid that long, unnecessary anxious walk to where I am. So I try as much as I can to reduce the anxiety within and around me as much as I can before I get into the presentation. And of course, the best way to actually now kill the nerves is to feel like you understand and you're ready. And how do you do that? Again, understand what you're going to talk about. So of course, you need to rehearse. If you have a friend, you can do that. If you have a mirror, you can do that. Or you can, if you're doing a physical presentation, you can take a camera, record yourself, jitoe makosa. And I know we can be too hard on ourselves, because you see, people are saying I'm too confident. Bado mi hujitoa makosa, like mi hujitoa makosa. So take your camera, record, jitoe makosa, and then see what you can improve. Again, seek for clarification for people who you think are actually good presenters, or someone who has talked on a topic and you felt like they did a good job. People are not so selfish with information, by the way. Me, the few people, like hiyo nakwambia, the three parts concept ya presentation, I just reached out to someone. They had reached out and told me to do a discussion on a certain topic. It was on keto diets and weight management, and I was like, you need to guide me, because this is the first scientific thing I'm trying to do. And they told me, you do it in 3 parts. And I don't even think they remember telling me that, because I've met that person several other times, na hata hawakumbukangi wakiniambia hivyo. But I called them, it was a him, I called him and I asked him, and he told me to structure that in 3 parts. It will be easier for me to remember, it will be easier for me to follow through, and it will be easier for me to make sure that my presentation is memorable. So of course, reach out, ask for assistance as much as you can, and then breathe in, breathe out. Remember, you're talking to humans. Hata kama unaenda kupresent mbele ya president, he still has red blood running through his vein. Ni binadamu tu kama wewe. Me, by the way, I think that's a bad thing that I do, but me, I'm very good with kutoshanisha watu. Mimi nitasema tu naongelesha binadamu kama mimi, so I will talk. And that gives me a bit of confidence. They are human, and the most that they can do is not listen. And if I know what I'm talking about, they will listen. So try as much as you can to remove the seniority of the audience that you're talking to. Of course, it's important to acknowledge power. This is Kenya. This is Kenya, my good people. You have to acknowledge power. You have to acknowledge position. You have to acknowledge seniority and everything else. But even as you acknowledge that, remember that they are human and they have red blood running through their veins. So hawatakukula. So unless you're going to now you're doing a maandamano, then it's a totally different presentation, because there you're shouting. People can hit you, so you have to be ready. Mdu kigongo unatoroka. But huku kwingine where we are looking at confidence and presentation and how you're going to structure, of course, you have to understand that they're humans. Now, the most they can do is not listen. And of course, before a presentation, please be presentable yourself. I know I might not look so presentable, but I still prepared for this presentation. If normally I would have, it's already 8, normally I would have a satin on my head, niko ready kulala. But you see, I have removed the satin. Sometimes I will come in with a satin, but it will still be presentable. So look presentable. If it's a physical presentation, make sure that you align with the audience. If you're presenting as a leader, present when you're before you start doing your presentation. But then if you're dressed well, I know, Charity, you will relate to this. Me, when I am dressed well, I'm like, hey, Lilian, you look good. Trust me, my confidence huku juu. But nipate na tights na t-shirt, hata naeza angalia chini tukiongea, because I'm like, yo, what is this? So dress the part, look the part, and just be confident. And practice. Show up for those presentations, show up for those discussions. Usiogope, by the way. What's the worst that can happen? Charity, back to you.
Thank you so much, Lilian. That's why I knew you'll ace this. Because Lilian ukimsikiliza huwezi jua ati sauti inatetemeka. For me, remember when I just got into presentation, sauti ilitetemeka until it became a whisper. Watu wamekaa huko nyuma hawasikii, and then when people tell you to, we can't hear you, now your train of thought inapotea, unaanza kubabaika, and then your confidence inaenda chini, na the moment your confidence level inateremka chini, so as your sauti hata kama you start doubting or second guessing what you're saying. So like Lilian has said, for me, I will share with you the formula I use, because sometimes the nerve, they get better, the sweaty hands, the shaky voice. Yani sometimes roho inafanya boom 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 mpaka unaisikia kwa masikio, so it starts to distract you. If you go through that, you can leave it in the comments, tujue kama tuko wengi. So what has helped me, like Lilian has said, I have pushed myself out of the comfort zone of saying I can't do it. So when I get an opportunity to speak on a topic I'm passionate about, I don't even think twice. I know most people who have reached me to speak on maternal diabetes. I usually just say yes, hata wasifikiri, and then I structure, like tumeongea the previous point, I structure my presentation and I start practicing. Like the way Lilian has said, record, I put my phone on, or this laptop, I record myself. There's a webcam. I record myself. I go back and listen. If you have a TV, and this is a trick my elder sister gave me. If you have a TV and you have an HDMI cable, just connect it from your laptop to your TV. Time yourself. In tip nilipatiwa during school presentation. Time yourself, or if not, present, stand and talk as if, even if it's online, you talk as if you're talking to a physical audience. So sometimes ukiona kwa presentation yangu mkono, because that's how I imagine myself I will be. So I have structured my presentation. I now start practicing, which means it's a repetition, and it means I'm familiar with my slide. That's why for me, I will not, even if I don't have time, I will still sit down and make my own slide so that I know the flow of how the slides are going to be, from slide 1 to slide 10, from slide 1 to slide 30. I know how the slides are going, the order, so that I know click next, I know this is the topic I'm going to talk about, so I don't lose my train of thought. So for me, one tip I leave you with from someone who is a fumbler and nervous wreck is to keep practicing. And like Lilian said, dress for the part. You don't want to have a button that is popping, so that button keeps on disturbing you when you're presenting, or you wore that ka jeans or that kalongi kamekushika na no kware zip itafunguka. No, just dress comfortably so that you remove the distractions away from your presentation. Because kama unafikiria aki anaangalia fly yangu imefunguka, let me now start pulling my top down. Akili itateremka kwa kuvuruta that top, and then your train of thought itaenda, and then unaanza kukaa as if you don't know what you're saying. So I feel like from one person to the next, when you're struggle na the anxiety, those are the few tips that have really helped me. That's why Lilian anasema I look confident. To practice.
And then Charity, you look confident, and we thank God hakuna mali hiyo stamari na kwanga.
I struggle sometimes with unajua inaitwaje nini ya mama ikikataa. When lugha ya mama imekushikilia mguu and your ancestors are saying today is the day hii word inakataa. So your accent inatokea. So
that's normal. That's natural.
I move past it so fast. Hata sometimes hautasikia. Anyway, so that was really a good session. I hope this software will record this, because I would love for this to be a real to share on our TikTok, because I know TikTok gender live huko, so that someone else can benefit from just building confidence and managing your nervous system when it comes to presentation. Guys, Lilian amewaambia, so reach out to us and just take that leap. Because for me, ningebaki na hiyo mentality ya I'm scared, I will not even have considered doing this live, being a washa camera kama na present, because for me, I like my camera on when I am presenting. So tunaenda kwa ni segment 6. As you're almost finishing, we're going to talk about showing up prepared, credible, and professional. So I feel like, Lilian, you have mentioned some of those things, like dressing, showing up, what can I say? Like, I feel like being credible and just professional it has to do with, I don't know if you have any helpful tips for someone when is actually doing a physical presentation. Achana na hii online yenye half juu uko vizuri but huku chini mtu asijue umevaa nini. So take the mic. Acha nione kidogo pale. I'm coming. Lilian, handing over to you. Thank you.
Okay, if you're doing a physical presentation, please, you have to be presentable. You know, you can't come and you want me to listen to you. Na umevaa skirt ingine so skimpy, so tight, your boobs are all over, your hair is not well done, your makeup is shoddy. It's better not to wear makeup. I remember our high school teacher used to tell us that kama haujui kufanya kitu achana nayo. It's better not to wear makeup than to wear bad makeup. It's better. And if you don't have time, like maybe umeamka umechelewa and you're doing a physical presentation, like myself most of the time, just do as minimal as you can, that you look presentable. Don't overdo it. And again, depending on the audience that you're going to do as a lady, of course, make sure that your dress is presentable. I don't want to say morally okay, but I will say it. It's not too short. Again, let your dress be comfortable, not too baggy. Make sure that you feel good as a woman. Because for a fact, mimi nikikaa vizuri, I will show up very confident that mnaweza sema ni arrogance. But again, look good, have your shoes comfortable so that you can move around the panel. You don't want to discuss, maybe you're doing a discussion, no umekaa tu unasoma kwa podium. No, that is not good. So try as much as you can to move and interact with your audience, especially if whatever you're talking about can actually involves interactions, and it will do better with that. So have comfortable shoes. Isi time ya kuvaa stilettos or actually now come in with the highest heels that you have in your closet. No, have comfortable shoes. You can do doll shoes that are flat and they are professional, or you can do a simple 3-inch or a 2-inch or even a 4-inch, because I know when a lady is in heels, you feel that confidence pia inashpanda huko juu. Make sure that your hair is well, it's not distractive. Kazi sio kufanya hivi juu wewe sio influencer, wewe sio socialite. So try as much as you can to avoid that. I know I do that a lot myself, but nakwanga nimeikaza hii mkono ni venye tu inaanga imenislipia. I try to hold on to this hand, it doesn't do that. So try as much as you can to have your hair well taken care of. And if you're a gent, again, usikuja na ragged, don't come smelling. Brush your teeth, basic hygiene tips. Brush your teeth, comb your hair, make sure that your nails are not so dirty. You don't have to have a lot of polish, you don't have to do manicure pizo, but just don't have dirty nails. That ukiongea hivi mikono uchafu inaonekana. That's me, I will not listen. Me personally, I will not listen to you. So try as much as you can to be presentable. And then also respect your audience. You know, when you respect your audience, trust me, you will show up good and you'll show up looking good for them. And I know accidents will happen because I've gone somewhere na tumekaa mbele, and then the lady akishuka, the skirt hapa nyuma ikararuka. So try as much as you can to avoid such things. Angalia nguo vizuri ukivaa asubuhi, kama umeongeza kilo, replace with another outfit. Get something else. Do not look like you borrowed clothes, because how are we going to buy your idea and you cannot have anything original? So try as much as you can to be as presentable physically as you can. And what else? What else icks me? Oh, and for gentlemen, if you're doing official or if you're doing semi-casual, just make sure that you look smart, have clean shoes. Basics too, the hygiene, presentation, physical presentation is very important, because in any presentation that you're going to do, people are going to look at you first before they listen to what you're saying. So as they say, dress how you want to be addressed. If you want people to listen to you, if you want people to take up whatever you're saying seriously, then you just have to be presentable. Kama what else? What excuses do people use? Ati nimetembea nimechoka. Ukitembea ni normal. Ukitembea breathing, usiende kwa stage kama una hema. You can just talk, or you can text your MC or your moderator or event moderator to give you an extra 5 minutes that you can self-compose yourself. Usiende kwa stage ukisweat, ukibreathe, ukihema. Best believe it will show up in your presentation. So just take the 5 minutes or the 3 minutes, self-compose yourself. Breathe in, jipanguze vumbi, get a handkerchief, toa vumbi, show up hapo ni kama mtu alikuwa ameletwa tu hapo na Benz. Sometimes you're not faking it, but it's good to be presentable. Charity?
Yes, Lilian, I agree with you hapo kwa show up. So I think umesema kufika mapema, so I'll agree with you. Arrive early to that venue, or hata kama ni online webinar, log in, because Lilian has talked about the physical. With the online webinar, for me, I prefer when someone logs in 10 minutes to time, so that you can test the tech, the mic, how to share a slide, so that you don't start your presentation about you're struggling. I know tech sometimes zuia, but if you can log in so that we can fine tune everything so that it can be smooth, because like I said, any small mishap, like Lilian said, ukifika kama unapumua, it's going to affect, utaanza kupumua vile nilikuwa nasema. Ukilog in late, you're going to struggle. Na once slides zimeanza kukusumbua, it's going to mess up with your train of thought, and it's going to really disrupt your thinking. Lilian, and also, I don't know if you can talk about when it comes to handling questions, you know, mi nakuuliza swali, na insist ujibu, and maybe you're not even sure of it. How can we deal with that?
It's very okay and very professional for you to actually tell someone, allow me to confirm or allow me to consult, then I get back to you, than to lie to them. When you lie to someone and they find out that you have been lying, anything that you say will not be credible. So when you don't know something, you can pose the question to your audience or to your other speakers. If it's something like maybe you're doing an engagement for a day or such, you can always pose that question that you're not familiar with to the speaker or to the moderators or to even the organizers. They might know. And then if someone does not have an answer, then you can always get back to people. You give them your email or your phone number or even your handles, and then you tell them, kindly reach out. I will definitely look it up, consult, and I'll get back to you. And then when you say that, please get back to them. Because me, I know I have asked questions and some people have told me that, but in order to formalities, I reach out, hi, this was to happen, but people go silent. So let's be those people who actually now give feedback. It's very necessary. Charity?
Thank you so much, Lilian. This has really been a very enlightening session. So if you joined us from 7, we're almost 8:20. We had 6 segments because the last segment is just our reflection and closing up. If you've not tackled anything that you would love to know, please feel free to leave in the comments. We'll get back to you, even if you're going to watch this later, because it's going to be on our LinkedIn page and also on our YouTube channel. So feel free to leave any question, any thoughts that might have come up when you watch or you have not tackled. So Lilian, anything we've left out, because segment 7 is just closing remarks and key takeaways from the session. Anything we've left out?
No, I don't think we've left out anything, but maybe just a closing session or a closing part. I know it's not easy to wake up and just say to do presentation. Najua sio rahisi as people assume, but it all takes practice. If you're in school, offer to do it in your classes. Offer to be the one to present your assignment to your class. Be the person to actually volunteer. I know it's not easy because me, I could not. Okay, I will. I used to do them if I was forced to do them. I used to do the presentation, but I will not volunteer. But what I've learned, please volunteer if you're in school. It makes it easier. It makes it easier for you to deal with the nerves and peer to understand stage and room management for physical presentation. So try as much as you can to practice. Practice makes perfect. No one was born knowing how to present. People learn. We have learned how to present. You can learn. We are still learning. Like, if you check my algorithm on YouTube, you'll be impressed because I'm still learning. I watch content on how to improve delivery, to improve presentation, to improve engagement, to improve retention. So try as much as you can to also be intentional about learning. And then practice, give it a go. Usi practice, alafu umewatch, and then you would never put it in practice. So once you do that, give it a go. A good platform is like our corner. We are looking for a pool of presenters for the various topics in health and nutrition. So you come in, you tell us you're very passionate about diabetes, I'm passionate about hypertension, I'm passionate about arthritis, I want to talk about kidney disease, I want to talk about skin health, I want to talk about malnutrition. And then we schedule and we see how we are going to support you to make sure that you deliver and you do your best. Sometimes being the best version of yourself starts from not being the very best version of yourself. And I think I like what nutritionists in Kenya are doing, because we have really, over the last few years, we have really put ourselves out there. Tumejikaza. So I think we can continue with that momentum and still do better. There's room for more, there's room for improvement. So let's always be open to learning. I think that's it from me. Charity?
Thank you so much, Lilian. This has been a very lovely session. I hope you will benefit from this if you happen to watch later. And if you've joined us, we're still waiting for questions because we are at our Q&A. So ask any question, we're able to respond, or if not today, we'll respond to them in the coming week. So I'd love to challenge you guys. Just even if you don't want to come to the corner or any, just record yourself presenting and assess yourself. or send it to me or Lilian so that we can have a look at it. You have our email address and be able to help you, because at the Nutritionist Corner, we want to build an all-round nutritionist who knows, has the knowledge, and has both the technical and the soft skills. So Lilian, from Mimi, like umesema nikunywe maji nikule pia. I've really enjoyed being part of this session, and I hope it will be able to bless someone to start that journey. So may I have nothing else to say. Maybe if you do, as we close the live.
Maybe we should do more lives. This was a good
We
discussion.
I hear you, you're really procrastinating, and life is getting the better, but I am picking momentum. You know me, when I set my mind to something, I want to achieve it. So we will resume. Of course, next week we'll have our normal webinar session, but in the course of the week, we'll find time to bring in, because I know we've had Grace, we've had Eunice. I feel like we need to bring them back for a live discussion. We'll get back to them, Lilian. Unaniskuma tunaskumana, but we'll get back to it. I promise. Right now, I'm working on the details so that we can have both the LinkedIn stream and also the YouTube stream, so that the videos can be there to purchase subscribers here. So yote ndio nitajitetea nijishtaki, but we'll get back to our LinkedIn discussions and YouTube. Yeah, Lilian, hiyo nimekubali.
Yeah, we definitely need to get into it. But this was a very good discussion. It was easy. I was actually expecting it to be so complex.
No, not really. When you make something so complex and hard, it starts to stress you. Like the way people are making nutrition so hard, you know?
Yeah.
They're making nutrition so difficult, you know, it gets your discussion at Taisha. So I feel like maybe in the course of the week, maybe on our YouTube channel, we should get into the ugali discussion. I don't know if you're open to it.
The ugali discussion, I might reserve my comments right now, because as a union, I might, as a unionist, I might be having some other interest somewhere. So allow me to reserve. But I can come in as your moderator.
Yes, you'll be the one moderating. We'll bring a panel to discuss, especially when it comes to regulating nutrition information. You should come in as a moderator, but I will still want you to. You're not talking as Lilian, Treasurer Kuna. You're talking as Lilian, founder of.
Unfortunately, that will still.
I will moderate.
It's
okay, guys. I will see if it will happen, because squeezing me notice tunaambianaga na Lilian it will, and then life happens. So this has been our live discussion. We really appreciate you guys for tuning in. It's almost 8:30. Lilian, I beg to leave. I have another place to be, but I've really enjoyed this session, and thank you for taking your time to come and join me. This has been a lovely discussion. So from me to you guys, it's good night. I don't know if Lilian has anything.
No, good night, Lilian, and we see you next Thursday on our webinars.
Yes.
Good night, Tini.
So good night, and bye.
And please follow the Nutritionist Corner everywhere.
Yeah, on LinkedIn, and subscribe. We need. We only have 2 subscribers, guys.
Yeah, please subscribe to our channel.
Yeah, so we'll see each other next week as we talk about something else. So good night and bye.
Good night, Mama.